My name is Matt Kramer. I'm a resident of Whatcom County, and I spent 2 years working as a prison guard for Corrections Corporation of America, now known as Core Civic, and I'm against the jail tax. I want to start with a couple of questions. How many of you think that at some point our civilization will no longer experience war or corruption? Got one idealist.
No, I'm working on it.
Right, that's what we need. That's what we need. And I looked at why is it, I asked over and over again, why do we keep allowing the worst kinds of people to become our leaders? And we appear to be trained to do that, and we see examples today. That's also involved in systems. The jail you're talking about is a system, and that system has power that makes us feel unempowered. And the question is, what can we do about it? And I came up with the concept of, first, what is the problem? And the problem is what I call predatory leadership. And that would be a person or a system that profits at the expense of others. And what does it take to do that? And there are some common factors. One is they have to lack the ability to feel empathy. So if I feel no empathy, I have no problem exploiting you, causing harm to you. And the other is a lack of any sense of conscience for the consequences of what I do, how that impacts other people. So if I have no conscience about that, and I have no empathy, I can do anything I want. So I can suck the money out of a community for a jail that's totally inappropriate, does not meet the needs of the people. And it was kind of surreal how I wound up working as a prison guard. I was in North Texas, it's pretty rural, and there were two kinds of jobs available, Walmart and prison. And prison sounded better to me than Walmart, so that's what I did. And at the time I was going to college online, and I was studying criminal behavior, because I still had this question, how can people do things to other people? And in the process, I'm meeting a lot of inmates, and I'm hearing a lot of stories. I'm a professional mediator by trade, and I consider myself a story worker because I hear people's stories and I share people's stories. And I just find people fascinating. And so that's basically all I really want to say right now is consider that concept of predatory leadership, how that affects you, how it affects your lives, how it affects what our nation does to other nations. And we have to kind of numb ourselves, because how much can we feel before we just kind of destroy ourselves with all of that? And if you're interested, I'll give you the website where you can learn a little more about that. And I want to thank you very much. Yes?
I've just been reading a book by Rabbi Michael Lerner, and it's called
Yes.
Surplus Powerlessness. And you get into this, and I've been reading it in some theology too. It's where you think you can't change things, it's always been this way, it's always going to be this way, and even to the point where we, there's this thing like we blame ourselves for everything, so we feel like we don't even deserve, at some level, a good society to live in. So the first thing you have to do is acknowledge that something's really wrong, and then you start to envision and imagine what you want.
Yep.
And have this, it's called prophetic imagination in one of the theology books I've been reading.
Something to work towards. I'm reminded of one little thing I wanted to say. I worked for CCA, now it's called Core Civic. And they put out great flyers about their rehabilitation programs and their education programs. But they're in 20 states. They're not in Washington at this point, but they're in 20 states, and they tell each of those states, we can save you money, which is a lie, but we demand that you provide us 97% occupancy. And the states sign the contracts for that. And the books in their education programs, 30 years old. They don't, it's in their best interest that people do not get rehabilitated, that they come back.